The journey back to the colony took 4 hours. Nathan spent the entire time thinking about what he had learned. The archive held the knowledge of an entire civilization that had been erased from human memory. Technology that could change everything. Medicine that could do things that the current Galactic Council's doctors said were impossible. When they landed, Nathan immediately called an emergency meeting. Only 5 people attended. He trusted only 5 people in the entire colony to know the truth. Besides Marcus and Amanda, there was Dr. Stephen Hayes, the colony's medical officer. There was engineer David Park, who kept all the machines running. And there was Administrator Sarah Kim, who managed the colony's official business with the Galactic Council. They sat in Nathan's private office with the door locked. No one else would enter. Nathan told them everything. He told them about the ship. He told them about Dr. Vasquez's message. He told them about the genetic modifications that the Council had done to humanity, deliberately making humans weaker and more obedient. Stephen's face went white. He had studied medicine under the Council's guidelines. He had learned that certain improvements to the human body were impossible. Now he understood that those things had only been made to seem impossible. The knowledge had been hidden, not lost. David asked the first practical question. How do we access this information without the Council finding out? Nathan said they would have to be very careful. They would have to move things slowly. They would have to seem normal while they studied what the archive contained. Sarah asked a harder question. She asked, what happens when the Council discovers this? And they will discover it. We cannot hide something this big forever. Amanda answered her. Amanda said, then we will have made our choice. We will have decided that humanity's freedom is more important than the Council's comfort. They spent the rest of the night making plans. They would organize teams to study the archive's data. They would take turns going to the ship, pretending that they were doing routine surveys. They would extract information carefully, making it look like scientific discovery rather than forbidden knowledge. David said he could create a hidden space in the colony's main computer system. They could store the archive data there, encrypted in ways that would look like routine colony records to any. Council Inspector Stephen began thinking about how to use the medical knowledge hidden in the archive. He said quietly, there are people in this colony who are sick. People with conditions that the Council's medicine cannot cure. If we could study this old technology, maybe we could help them. They all understood what he was really saying. They were not just gathering knowledge. They were planning to use it. They were planning to break the most important law that the Council had ever made. By the time the meeting ended, they all knew there was no turning back. Over the next 3 weeks, each of them made the trip to the ship. Amanda studied the biological archives and made careful notes on how the old technology could modify human genetics. Stephen examined medical procedures that seemed like magic compared to what he had learned in the Council's schools. David worked with the ship's computer systems, trying to understand how their ancestors had built machines that lasted for centuries. Nathan spent his time reading Dr. Vasquez's complete journals. She had recorded her thoughts for decades, all the while building the ship and gathering knowledge. She wrote about her family, about the friends she had to say goodbye to, about the fear that her plan would never work. But she also wrote about hope. She believed that humanity would survive. She believed that someday her descendants would reclaim what had been lost. On the 24th day after their discovery, something changed. A message arrived on the colony's secure communication system. It was encrypted in an old code that should not have existed anymore. Only David could even recognize what language it was written in. When he decoded it, his hands shook. The message came from another colony on a world called Mars Station. It was from someone named Commander Isabella Martinez. She had a simple message. We found one too. We are not alone in this. There are others. Contact us immediately. Nathan realized in that moment that they were part of something much larger than they had thought. Somewhere out there, other humans had discovered other archives. Other people had found the truth about what the Council had done to them. The secret that he thought his colony alone possessed was not a secret anymore. And that changed everything about what they would have to do next. Nathan Pierce stood at the observation deck of the colony station on Kepler 442b and watched the sun go down. He had been the commander here for 5 years now. The colony had grown from 300 people to over 4,000. They came here to build new lives, to settle a world that the Galactic Council said was safe for humans to develop. Nathan did not believe everything the Council told him anymore. A low alarm sounded on his personal device. Something large had entered the system. Something that moved with purpose and intelligence. Something that should not be here. He called Marcus Cole first. Marcus was the security chief, a man with military training who understood what danger looked like. When Marcus arrived at the command center, his face was calm, but his hands moved fast, pulling up the scanner data. The object was massive. Too massive. It was shaped like something old, something from before the time when the Galactic Council had taken control of human expansion. The Council had told people that the old days were gone, that humans had always been what they were now. Peaceful, limited, manageable. Nathan knew that was not true. He had read the old histories. He had studied the forbidden documents that the colony's archive kept hidden in the deepest systems. He knew that humans had once built ships that could cross galaxies. He knew that humans had once created weapons so terrible that entire worlds had burned. He knew that somewhere, somehow, that knowledge had been taken away. The device approaching through space bore the marks of old Earth design. No one built ships like that anymore. No species in the Galactic Registry knew how to create a hull that could last hundreds of years without new power cores. No one understood the crystalline structures that seemed to form the outer shell. Nathan made a decision. He would not report this to the Council yet. He would not follow protocol. He would investigate first. He called Dr. Amanda Wells. She was the colony's chief scientist. A woman who spent her time studying the native plants of Kepler 442b. She was also someone who asked questions that made people uncomfortable. When she arrived at the command center, she understood immediately what she was looking at. The ship was not just old. It was ancient. The materials on the hull had decayed in patterns that suggested thousands of years of space travel. The interior heat signatures showed that something was still active inside, still maintaining systems, still waiting. Amanda said only one word: impossible. Marcus began to organize security teams. He did not ask for permission because he understood what this meant. If the Galactic Council discovered that humans still possessed technology from the pre-Council era, everything would change. Humans would be moved to new colonies, ones that were smaller and more controlled. Or worse, humans might be quarantined entirely. Nathan looked at his two best people and told them the truth. They would go to the ship. They would see what was inside. They would understand what they were dealing with before they told anyone anything. The shuttle launch was simple. No complicated procedures. Just 3 people, 1 ship, and a long ride across empty space to something that should not exist. As they flew toward the massive vessel, Nathan thought about his daughter. She was 17 years old, born here on Kepler 442b. She would grow up in a world that the Galactic Council controlled. She would never know that humans could be more than what they were allowed to be, unless he made it otherwise. The massive ship hung in a valley between 2 mountain ranges. It was partially buried in dust and rock from thousands of years. A port began to open as their shuttle approached. The opening was large enough for their entire vessel to fit through. Amanda whispered, "It is responding to us. It knows we are human." They landed in a hangar that was so big that the shuttle looked like a single insect in an empty field. The walls were made of the same crystalline material as the hull, and they glowed with a soft blue light that had not needed power in centuries. The light was still bright and steady. The interior was cold. Very cold, but breathable. The air itself seemed to welcome them. Marcus checked for weapons or defensive systems. He found nothing that was armed or active. The ship was not a weapon. It was a library. It was a tomb. It was a time capsule. They moved through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Nathan's mind struggled to understand the scale of the vessel. It was kilometers long, perhaps kilometers wide. It was bigger than any city on Kepler 442b. It was bigger than several cities dot at the center of the ship. They found a chamber that was spherical and vast. Walls of crystal curved up and around them, and in the very center was a terminal. Just a simple interface, designed for human hands and human minds. Nathan approached it slowly. The terminal activated with soft humming sounds. A visual display came to life, showing star maps of regions that the Galactic Council had declared forbidden and closed. A voice spoke. It was a woman's voice, recorded and preserved from long ago. The image of a woman appeared on the screen, her face serious and her eyes determined. Her name was shown in text beneath the image. Dr. Elena Vasquez. She spoke in English, clear and simple, as if she was speaking directly to people 400 years in the future. She said, "If you are watching this, then humanity still exists. If you are watching this, then the Accords have held, and our people have survived under the Council's protection. I hope you are free. I fear you are not." Dr. Vasquez explained that before the convergence, before the Galactic Council had united all the spacefaring species, humanity had been different. Humans had been explorers and builders. They had developed technology that could reshape continents. They had weapons that could destroy entire planets. They had created a civilization that expanded across stars without permission or guidance. From older species than the Council had arrived. The Thylians and Kandorians and dozens of other ancient species had discovered that humans were becoming too powerful, too fast, too unpredictable. They had decided that humanity needed to be controlled. They had used genetic modification to slow human development. They had locked parts of the human mind that could be used for warfare. They had made humans dependent on the Council for medicine, for technology, for protection. Dr. Vasquez and a group of scientists had refused to accept this. They had built this ship in secret. They had gathered all the forbidden knowledge, all the old technology, all the things that the Council had decided humans should never know again. They had hidden it here in deep space, and they had set it to wait. "We do not know if you will ever find this," Dr. Vasquez said to the camera. "We do not know if humanity will be free again. But we believe in you. We believe that someday our people will be wise enough and strong enough to reclaim what was taken. This archive is our gift to that future." The terminal displayed images of old Earth. Nathan saw cities that reached toward the sky. He saw ships in space that moved between the stars. He saw humans doing things that modern humans thought were impossible. Amanda was crying silently. Marcus stood very still, his military training keeping him from showing emotion, but his eyes were bright and intense. Nathan understood that his life had changed in that moment. The colony had changed. Humanity had changed. There was no going back from this knowledge. They were not alone in the universe, and they were not the weak, peaceful species that the Galactic Council had made them believe they were. They were prisoners who had just discovered the key to their own cell. The Galactic Council announced their investigation on a Tuesday morning. Nathan received the official notice while he was meeting with the colony's agricultural committee. The notice was formal and polite, as the Council always was. But the message was clear. The Council had detected anomalies in Kepler 442b's development patterns. They were sending an inspector to review the colony's work. The inspector would arrive in 14 days. 14 days. Nathan had 14 days to prepare the colony for what was coming. He immediately called an emergency assembly. Every person in the colony was required to attend. 4,000 people gathered in the main dome, crowded together, talking quietly about what the announcement meant. Nathan stood on the central platform and looked out at all of them. He saw people of different ages, different backgrounds, all of them drawn to Kepler 442b, looking for a new life. All of them trusting the Galactic Council to let them live in peace. He told them the truth. He explained that the Galactic Council had made genetic modifications to all humans thousands of years ago. He showed them the data from the archives. He showed them what humans used to be capable of building. He showed them the medical technology that could unlock the restrictions placed on their minds and bodies. Some people cheered. Some people cried. Some people sat in stunned silence, struggling to understand what they had just heard. An old man named Robert stood up and asked, "Is this real? Or is this some kind of test?" Nathan showed him the archives himself. Robert looked at the data, looked at the medical specifications, and tears began to flow down his face. He said, "My granddaughter was born with a genetic disease. The council's doctors said there was no cure. But this technology, this old technology, it says there is a cure. Is it true?" Nathan said yes, it was true. Stephen Hayes stepped forward and said, "We can cure her. This technology will work. We have tested the procedures." The meeting went on for hours. People asked questions. Some people were angry about the council's deception. Some people were afraid of what would happen if they opposed the council. Some people were excited about the possibility of becoming more than what they had been allowed to be. By the end of the meeting, Nathan asked people to vote. Did they want to join the network of colonies working to reveal the truth about the genetic modifications? Or did they want to remain silent and let the council continue to control them? The vote was not unanimous, but it was overwhelming. 87% of the colony voted to join the liberation movement. More than 3,000 people chose freedom over safety. Nathan authorized Amanda to begin the final preparations. They moved everything they could from the archive to the hidden backup systems that David had created. They copied genetic data. They copied medical procedures. They copied engineering specifications for technology that had been forbidden for 400 years. They worked every hour of every day. They had 13 days left. On the 10th day, Isabella Martinez sent an urgent message. The network had advanced their timeline. All colonies were authorized to begin revealing the truth immediately. The Galactic Council was moving faster than expected. Investigators were already at 3 different human settlements. If they were not careful, the Council would discover the archives before humanity could reveal the truth themselves. Nathan made the decision. He had not consulted with anyone. He had not asked for a vote. He authorized the transmission to begin. The message went out to every human colony across the galaxy. The message contained the genetic data showing the restrictions placed on humanity. The message contained Dr. Alina Vasquez's original archive. The message contained medical procedures for reversing the genetic modifications. The message contained the truth. In 14 hours, the message reached 100 human colonies. In 2 days, it reached 300 colonies. Within a week, every human settlement in the galaxy knew the truth. The response from the Galactic Council was swift and severe. They issued a notice of quarantine. All human colonies were ordered to cease all genetic research immediately. All medical treatments using the archive technology were declared illegal. The Council stated that humans were developing technology that could endanger the peace of the galaxy. But something happened that the Council had not expected. When humans heard that they were being threatened with quarantine, when they heard that the Council wanted to prevent them from accessing medical technology that could cure their diseases, The human colonies did not obey. Instead, they resisted. On Mars Station, the colony scientists began performing the genetic reversal procedures on volunteers. On Titan Station, engineers started building new technology based on the archive specifications. On Europa Colony, doctors began treating genetic diseases that the Council's medicine had declared incurable. The Galactic Council threatened military action. They said that any colony continuing to use the forbidden technology would be subject to forced deactivation of all advanced systems. Some council members openly discussed destroying human colonies entirely as a way to protect galactic peace. But at that moment, something else happened. The younger species in the council, species that had not been part of the original restrictions on humanity, began to speak. The Vrel asked why the council felt the need to prevent humans from accessing medical technology. The Xanthi asked why humanity should not be allowed to determine their own future. The Kandran, who were younger than the ancient Thylians and Kandorians who had created the Accords, began to question whether the restrictions had ever been necessary at all. The council was splitting. The unity that had held for thousands of years was breaking apart. Nathan watched this from Kepler 442b. He received message after message from colonies across human space. Some colonies were choosing to undergo genetic reversal. Some colonies were afraid and waiting to see what would happen. But most of them were refusing to obey the Council's orders. The inspector that the Council had sent to Kepler 442b arrived as scheduled. But by then, the entire galaxy already knew the truth. The inspector, a Kandorian named Vesser, arrived to find a colony that was actively performing genetic modifications. Vesser sat down with Nathan and asked a simple question. "Why are you doing this?" Nathan answered equally simply, "Because we are a people. Because we should be allowed to choose what we want to become. Because being told we are not smart enough or strong enough to know the truth about ourselves is not protection. It is slavery." Vesser considered this for a long time. Then the Kandorian said something that Nathan had not expected. Vesser said, "I think you are right. I think my species made a mistake 1,000 years ago. I think it is time to correct it." And with that, one of the Council's representatives joined the movement for human freedom. The decision Nathan had to make was not easy. He sat alone in his office for an entire night, thinking about everything that could go wrong. He thought about his daughter. He thought about the 4,000 people in the colony who had done nothing wrong except to trust him as their leader. The message from Isabella Martinez was waiting in his personal device. She had sent coordinates and a schedule for secure communication. She had also sent something else, a list of 23 other colonies where similar discoveries had been made. Colonies on different worlds, separated by millions of kilometers, had all found the same truth. In the morning, Nathan called the 5 people back to his office. He told them about Isabella Martinez and the other colonies. He told them that they were part of a network. He told them that people across human space had discovered what the Council had done. Stephen's first reaction was fear. He said, "If the Council knows about this, they will crush us. They have destroyed entire colonies before for less." David disagreed. He said, "The Council cannot destroy us all. If there are 23 other colonies, they cannot eliminate every one of us without making it obvious something is happening." The younger species in the Council would ask questions. Sarah asked the question that Nathan had been asking himself. What do we do with this knowledge? Do we keep it hidden? Do we use it? Do we tell people? Amanda stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the colony below them, at the people working in the fields and in the construction zones. She said, "We tell them. All of them. We tell the entire colony that they have been lied to. We tell them about the genetic modifications. We tell them about the archive. We tell them about the choice." The choice? Nathan asked. Amanda turned around. We asked them if they want to remain as they are, or if they want to be free. We asked them to choose. Stephen said that was insane. He said most people would reject the idea. Most people were comfortable in their lives. Most people did not want to fight the Galactic Council, but David understood what Amanda was saying. He said, "She is right. We cannot force them to know the truth and then force them to stay silent about it. We have to let them choose." Sarah said something practical. She said, "If we tell everyone, the council will find out. There is no way to keep a secret when 4,000 people know it. And when they find out, they will come here with military force. They will take the archive. They will probably take us too." Nathan listened to all of them, and then he made his decision. He had not made it lightly, but he had made it. He knew what he had to do. He authorized Amanda to begin organizing the colony's scientists and engineers. They would extract as much data as possible from the archive over the next 2 weeks. They would copy everything, encrypt it, and prepare to send it to the other colonies. He authorized David to create backup systems for all the archive data. Nothing would be lost. Even if the council destroyed the ship, the knowledge would survive. He authorized Stephen to begin documenting all the medical knowledge from the archive. If they were going to break the council's laws, they might as well do it completely. But he did not authorize telling the colony yet. That would come in time, but not yet. First, they had to secure the knowledge. First, they had to make sure that nothing could be taken from them. Nathan made contact with Isabella Martinez. He used the encryption codes she had provided and sent a message in the old language that only humans from the pre-council era would have known. His message was simple. "We have found the truth. We are ready to act. What is the plan?" Isabella's response came within 6 hours. She sent a detailed message that changed everything. According to Isabella, the network of colonies had been developing a plan for over 50 years. Humans across the galaxy had been quietly gathering data and technology for decades. They had identified the genetic modifications that the Council had made. They had developed medical procedures to reverse them. They had prepared everything needed to transform humanity from a controlled species into a free one. But there was a problem. The Galactic Council was growing suspicious. They had detected anomalies in human development patterns. They had noticed that some colonies were producing unusual scientific results. They had begun sending investigators to different human settlements. The time for secrecy was ending. The network had to move soon, or they would lose their chance forever. Isabella asked if the Kepler 442b colony was ready to join the transformation. She asked if Nathan was willing to help reveal the truth about what the Council had done. Nathan knew that answering yes meant the end of the normal life he had built. It meant conflict and uncertainty. It meant that everything would change. He called the 5 people to his office one more time. He told them about Isabella's message. He told them about the plan to reveal the truth to all of humanity at once. He asked them directly, "Are we doing this? Or do we stop now and pretend we never found the archive?" Amanda said yes immediately. Stephen took longer, but eventually said yes. David said yes. Sarah said yes, but she said it with her eyes closed and her hands shaking. Nathan made the final decision alone. He accessed the secure communication system and sent his response to Isabella Martinez. His message was 4 words. Kepler 442b is ready. He did not know it yet, but that message would start events that would change the entire galaxy. Within weeks, the truth would spread. Within months, the Galactic Council would face the greatest challenge to their authority in 10,000 years. And humanity would finally have a choice about what they wanted to be. Nathan looked at the 5 people in his office and said, "We need to prepare the colony. We need to get everyone ready. Because when this becomes public, everything changes. They spent that night making plans. They did not sleep. They could not afford to sleep. The future of their entire species was in their hands, and there was not much time left. 6 months after the truth was revealed to the galaxy, Nathan sat in his office and reviewed the reports coming from human colonies everywhere. The situation had stabilized, but not in the way anyone had expected. The Galactic Council had not fallen apart, but it had changed. The ancient Tyrians and Kandorians who had created the Accords had mostly retreated from galactic governance. They had been replaced by younger species who were more willing to accept humanity as equals. The restrictions on human development had been officially lifted, but not every human colony had chosen the same path. Some colonies had rejected the genetic reversal procedures. Some colonies still believed that the Council's protection was necessary. Some humans were afraid of the changes that freedom would bring. Nathan had not forced anyone to accept the genetic modifications. He believed in choice. He believed that humans should be able to decide what they want to become. In Kepler 442b, 90% of the colony had undergone the reversal procedures. The colony had also begun studying the technology from the archives more deeply. David Park and his team were working on new propulsion systems. Amanda Wells was researching new medicines. Stephen Hayes was training new doctors in techniques that had been forbidden for 1,000 years. But there was more to do. The archive had contained knowledge about places in the galaxy that the Council had closed off. There were regions of space that humans had built colonies in before the convergence. There were technological sites that had been hidden away. There were possibilities that had been locked in storage for centuries. Nathan received a message from Isabella Martinez at Mars Station. Isabella wanted to organize the first expedition to a forbidden region of space. She wanted to send human crews to explore what their ancestors had built. She asked if Kepler 442b would participate. Nathan agreed immediately. He authorized David to begin preparing a ship using the old technology from the archives. The ship would be built differently from modern vessels. It would use old human engineering, old human design philosophy. It would be a connection to what humans had been before the Council had restricted them. The project took 3 months to complete. The ship, which they named the Unity, was a hybrid design that combined old human technology with modern understanding. It was smaller than the massive archive ship that Nathan had first discovered, but it was faster and more efficient. It could carry a crew of 50 people into regions of space that had been closed for thousands of years. Nathan chose his crew carefully. Amanda wanted to go. David wanted to go. Stephen volunteered to go as the mission's medical officer. Marcus Cole, the security chief, demanded to be on the expedition. And Nathan decided to go himself. The Unity departed from Kepler 442b on a clear morning. Nathan stood on the observation deck and watched the colony grow smaller behind them. He thought about his daughter, who was now studying advanced science at the colony's new research center. She would grow up in a galaxy where humans were free to pursue any goal they wanted. She would grow up knowing that her species had overcome oppression and chosen its own future. The journey to the Forbidden Zone took 2 weeks. They crossed through regions of space that no human had entered in thousands of years. They detected old mining operations, long abandoned. They found evidence of ancient space stations. They discovered the remnants of human civilization that had existed before the convergence. When they arrived at the coordinates that Isabella had provided, they found something remarkable. There was a planet that had been terraformed by human technology. The planet had cities built into its surface. The cities were empty, abandoned millennia ago, but they were intact. Preserved in the vacuum of space, waiting for humans to return, Amanda led the expedition to the surface. They found archives similar to the one on Kepler 442b, but these contained different information. These contained engineering specifications for terraforming equipment. These contained medical technology for adapting humans to different environments. These contained knowledge about how to build entire worlds from raw planetary material. David said quietly, "Humans built this. Our ancestors did this. And we forgot." They spent 3 days exploring the planet. They documented everything. They recorded data. They copied files. And they took samples of the technology so they could study it back home. When they returned to the ship, Isabella sent a message from Mars Station. The message contained news from across human space. More colonies were beginning to explore the Forbidden regions. More teams were discovering ancient human technology. More people were understanding what humanity had truly been capable of. But Isabella's message also contained the warning. Some of the ancient human technology was dangerous. Some of the weapon systems that had been built before the convergence were still functional. Some of the knowledge in the archives was powerful enough to reshape galactic politics. Isabella asked Nathan a direct question. What would humanity do with this power? Would they use it to become what they had been before the convergence? Would they build weapons again? Would they pursue conquest? Nathan thought about this carefully. He thought about Dr. Elena Vasquez's journals. She had believed that humanity could be better than what they had been. She had believed that freedom did not have to mean returning to war and destruction. Nathan sent his response to Isabella. He said that humanity would need to make new choices. Not just choices about genetic modifications or exploring forbidden zones, but choices about who they wanted to become. Humans would need to decide if they wanted to repeat their past or create something new. He said that the archive should be open to all humans, so that everyone could understand their history. He said that the technology should be studied carefully, not just taken and used without thought. He said that humanity should learn from both their successes and their failures. The Unity returned to KEPLER 442b 3 weeks later. The colony gathered to welcome them home. Nathan stood on the observation platform and looked at the people below him. Most of them had chosen genetic reversal. Most of them were already working to develop new technologies. Most of them were excited about exploring the regions of space that had been forbidden. But some of them were afraid. Some of them worried that freedom would lead to chaos. Some of them missed the certainty that the Galactic Council had provided. Nathan understood their fear. He had felt it himself. But he also knew that humans could choose a different path than the one they had followed before. They could use their freedom to build something better. They could use their intelligence and creativity to solve problems, rather than create weapons. He made a speech to the entire colony. He told them that the choices they made now would determine what humanity became. He told them that the archives were a gift from their ancestors, but that gift included the responsibility to use the knowledge wisely. He told them that there would be difficult times ahead. There would be choices that were painful. There would be moments when it seemed easier to return to the old ways, to accept the Council's guidance and stop thinking for themselves. But he told them something else too. He told them that they were human. That meant they could overcome any challenge. That meant they could build anything they dreamed of. That meant that even though they had been restricted and limited, they had never lost the capacity to be great. The speech ended and people cheered. Not everyone, but most of them. Most humans were ready to move forward. Nathan looked up at the sky above Kepler 442b, at the stars that stretched across the darkness. Somewhere out there, other humans were making the same choices. Somewhere out there, humans were reclaiming their heritage and building their future. The galaxy would never be the same. And humanity, finally free from the restrictions that had bound them for so long, was ready to show the universe what they could truly become.